Welcome back, my loves. Today we are going to talk about expressions. We are going to start with expressions with like terms. And in order to do that, we are going to have to determine what like terms are. So let's go ahead and dive right into that. Our learning target today is going to be I can simplify expressions by combining like terms. Remember, simplify just means take a whole bunch of stuff and put it down into as few numbers as possible or as few digits as possible. All right. So we're going to take a bunch of really complicated looking stuff and shrink it down to as easy looking math sentence as possible. Okay. All right. So before we really jump into anything too complicated, let's think about what the parts of an expression are. What are all of the different parts of an expression? Okay. So we have all of these different like parts, all these different things that make up an expression. Okay. And remember, an expression is a math sentence that does not have an equal sign. So first, we've got this set of blue things, and then we have this orange number over here that are different. And it is asking us to figure out what these things by themselves are called. Okay. So this thing, or these things rather, are a number or variable, or numbers and variables that are multiplied together, and we call them terms. 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 Okay, so if you have just one number by itself, or one variable by itself, or a number next to a variable like we do with these blue ones that have the yellow box around it, these are just terms. They're individual things that we're going to look at that don't get combined together because they're not the same type of thing. It'd be like putting chocolate and onions together. Probably not something you're going to see going together really easily. Okay. Our next bubble that we're going to look at over here, it says a number multiplied with a variable. And it is specifically talking about the number with the variable. Okay, so that number that's multiplied with the variable. You're usually going to see this number in front of the variable, but it could potentially be written after the variable, but that's super weird, super rare. Okay, and this number is called the coefficient. Coefficient. Okay, and the way you can remember that is co means like together, like they go together like best friends. Okay, so if it says co, it means it goes together. It's the coefficient. They work together efficiently. All right. That X or any letter that we might use, sometimes we use a letter that is not in the English language. It might come from the Greek or Latin languages, is an unknown number that is just a placeholder. It's a placeholder for a number that we don't know yet. So it is a puzzle piece that's just blank, and we're going to figure out the picture that's supposed to go on it. Okay, so this is called a variable. And this very last bubble over here a number all on its own, just a whole number or a decimal or a fraction that does not have a variable with it. It's not multiplied to a variable or anything like that. It is just a number, is called the constant. Okay, there can be more than one constant. You can combine all of the constants together and simplify them down to one constant, but all constants do not have a variable with them. Okay? All right, let's jump down a little bit. All right, so now that you have a definition for what terms are, I want you to take a few seconds and really think about what you think like terms are. And I want you to predict what they are and go ahead and write it down in this box. You are going to write what you think like terms are in this box right here. I'm going to highlight the whole box with yellow. So go ahead and write your predictions in here. All right, our actual definition of like terms are terms that have blank that look exactly alike or are blank. These numbers can be added or subtracted. Identify the like terms, use one color for every type of term. So that's going to be an activity. Don't worry about that. Let's look at how we can actually define this. So like terms are terms that have variables. Remember variables from above. That look exactly alike. So they have to look exactly the same. Those variables cannot be any different at all. Or are, what's the other thing that we said? They could be constants. So those just plain old regular numbers. Okay, so if a number has a variable with it and the variable is exactly the same, you can add those, subtract those numbers can go together. If a number does not have a variable at all, it can be added together or subtracted from other numbers that have no variables at all. But you cannot add a number that has a variable to a number that does not have a variable. Those numbers cannot be combined. Okay? But please notice, this is very important information. We are only talking about adding and subtracting here. Adding and subtracting. When we're talking about combining like terms, we're specifically talking about adding and subtracting. Okay? So now for this activity, I will give you a couple of examples and then I'm going to leave the rest to you. So let's go through and let's try a couple of these. So, all right, here we go. So let's start with some coefficients. I'm sorry, let's start with some constants. So we're starting with numbers that are just plain old basic numbers. We got a 50 up here in this top corner. I see right off the bat a 10. Here's a fraction, 7/16. Right over here towards the middle is negative 10,000. I don't see any other constants, but if you do, make sure you circle them. Now, these numbers might be hard to add, subtract all together, but it can be done. We may not want to, but we could if we absolutely had to. Okay, So now let's go for a variable. I'm thinking, oh, let's go with b. Right here we've got a negative b. Just a little bit below that, we've got a 3b. If I were to ask you what 3b minus b is, you could probably tell me. A little bit lower than that, we've got another negative b. It is in parentheses, but it's just a negative b. Now, you're probably seeing some of these b squareds and thinking, oh, there's some b's. Nope, these are not just b's. These are b to the power of 2, which means what it really is negative 7bb. We don't want 2 b's. We don't want 2 b's. We're only looking for 1 b. Okay, remember our variables have to look exactly the same. Okay, so our variable we're looking for is just one single b. And if you look, we've got one over here, 0.7b. And I don't see any others off the top of my head, but let's look for some of those b squareds, because we can combine those b's to the power of 2, or b squared. So there's that negative 7b squared. Where else? Here's a negative b squared. Any others? I don't see any others. All right, so here's what we're going to do. These were some really great examples. I want you to use different colors and find the rest of the terms that go together. Give this a shot, and then we'll move on to the examples below. Go ahead and pause your video. All right, hopefully you were able to combine those like terms up there fairly easily, or not combine, identify. Now let's actually combine some like terms. What is really important to remember here are those skills that we practiced in quarter 1, that adding same sign, adding different signs, right? Subtracting negatives. These are things we're going to need to know while we're combining these same or these like terms, okay? So let's start with this basic problem. Okay, so when I'm combining like terms, I like to identify my terms and know which ones I need to combine. Okay, so for this basic problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a line underneath all of my variables that are the same, and then I'm going to put a squiggly line under all of my constants. Okay, so straight line under all of my variables, and that's all we have is variables. Notice I put the line under not only my variable, my coefficient, but also under the sign that goes with my coefficient and my variable, because we need to know if the number is positive or if the number is negative, right? Okay, so we also have to remember our order of operations, because when we're adding and subtracting, we need to go from left to right in the problem so that we make sure we get the correct answer. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to combine the first two numbers. We have x and we have 7x. But the first one doesn't have a number with it. It's just an x all by itself. So how many x's is that? If it's by itself, how many x's is it? It's just 1x. So if it helps you to write that 1 in front, go ahead and write that 1. If you don't need it, that's totally awesome too. And because there's no sign, that means it's positive. So 1x plus 7x, we get 8x. And then we just bring down that minus 3x. Okay? And then now we have 8x minus 3x. 8 x's, take away 3 x's, is 5 x's. And that's our answer for the first one. All right, let's try that medium problem. So again, I'm going to put a straight line under my variable with its coefficient and a squiggly line under any constants. So straight line under my variable, squiggly line under my constants. Straight line under my variable, squiggly line under my constants. So my straight lines, I have to put my straight lines together. My constants, my squiggly lines, I got to put my squiggly lines together. So I'm actually going to rewrite this before I start combining anything, so that all my variable numbers are together and all my constant numbers are together. So I'm going to have negative 2x minus 7x, and then I have minus 8 plus 3. Okay, so I rewrote it so that all of the variable numbers are already together and all of the numbers without variables are not already together, because I cannot combine variables and non-variables. So notice this is a negative and this is a negative. Is that same sign or different sign? So what do? We're going to add these two numbers together and we're going to keep our sign the same. So we get 9x, but then when we look at these signs, we have a minus and a plus. Are those same signs or different signs? So what do? Yeah, subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So it is 8 minus 3, 5. And the bigger number is 8, so we keep that negative sign. So our answer is 9x minus 5. Negative 9x minus 5. Okay. Ooh, let's move on to the challenging one. I want you to pause your video and give this one a shot yourself. Okay? And then we'll come back and do it together. All right, so this time I'm going to do a straight line, a squiggly line, and like a wavy line. Because I have two different kinds of variables and constants. I can't add the two different variables together because my variables have to be exactly alike. Okay, so a straight line for this variable, a super squiggly line for this one, another straight line, super squiggly, then like a wavy line. Okay, so now we're going to try and add these or subtract. Who knows? Let's rearrange a little bit. So I'm going to put the V's together. (21V), negative 12V. And then I'm going to put the T's because usually we do all of the variables first and then we do the constants last. So then we have plus 3t minus t, and then plus 8 and minus 9. That's a lot. I think we can do it. So again, here we've got a positive number and a negative number. What is a positive and a negative? They're opposites. So we subtract. What is 21 minus 12? So we get 9v, and our 21 is our bigger number, so it's positive. So we keep our 9 positive. Let me write that a little bit bigger. 9v, and then over here we have a positive 3 and a negative t. So again, we're going to subtract. And remember, in front of that negative t, we have just a plain old 1. Okay, so plain old 1, 3 minus 1, we get 2. T, and 3 is bigger, so it's plus. And then again, we have a plus and a minus, so a positive and a negative. So we subtract. 9 minus 8 is 1. But which one is bigger this time, the negative or the positive? The negative is bigger this time. So there's your answer. Okay. All right. That's the we try. Now it's your turn. Try these 2 problems. If you need any help, talk to some peers, come talk to me, and then try the combining like terms page. I'll talk to you later. Have a fantastic day. Love your face.